Hello and welcome to another Overlord lore video, and since it was requested to death, let's take a look at the most recent light novel and Unravel, one of the surprising amount of secrets Platinum Dragonlord, aka Riku Agnea, aka Tsar in Dorcus Vasion, aka the puppet with strings still attached, aka Future Dragonstake currently believing that he can defeat Ainz Ulgaun if he drags his real body out for battle for once in his lifetime. Apparently has. We are going to talk and speculate about Platinum Dragonlord's relationship with the 13 heroes, his possible involvement in the downfall of the 8 Greed Kings. And of course we are going to take a look at the relationship between him and Azud Aindra. But before we do so, I say thanks to my Patreons for supporting this channel. And if you want more videos, head over to my second one. You'll find the link in the description. So in the most recent light novel, Platinum seriously considered killing off his acquaintance, companion, or whatever the relationship status between Azud Aindra and Platinum really is, aside from complicated. And he did it for no other reason besides Azud helping a besieged city, and him being apparently not able to use the Red Gundam suit to its maximum effectiveness. And after his battle with Ainz, he met up with the leader of Red Drop and exchanged information about their recent battles. And while they conversed, Tsar contemplated whether or not he shall kill Azud right then and there, in order to retake the suit and hand it to somebody who could use it far more effectively. The Dragonlord, while considering whether or not to kill him, also thought about the possibility of Azud's betrayal, which from Tsar's perspective is not only ironic, but to him it would also explain why Azud survived the battle with Albedo, who, remember, breached his world-separating wild magic barrier and punched his armor into the ground and orbit alike. Because as far as he is concerned, Platinum had sent Azud on a suicide mission and was surprised and a bit irritated that he made it out alive. Additionally, Platinum contemplated what to do with his body after killing him in order to retake the suit, since death doesn't guarantee silence thanks to resurrection magic. And it would be extremely suspicious if his body would just disappear. At the end of this process, he came to the conclusion that he didn't want to repeat the mistakes of his past, and thus decided to keep him alive for now. This entire contemplation is not only much more reminiscent of how Gus Fring must have thought about what to do with Walter White, rather than of any actions of a noble, Bahamut-like Dragonlord, all about world protection and the good and just side of things. And given how he thought about Azud, it also puts his entire relationship with the 13 heroes, and especially the player that led them, into question. Because in the guise of his armor, Platinum Dragonlord was once a member of the 13 heroes himself, which Rigrid and possibly the rest didn't find out until the very end of their journey, something the Ainz impersonating Pandora's actor deducted within minutes. And like Rigrid, Bears Karoo gained enough of Tsar's trust to being granted a precious wild magic ring. At least in the web novel, the leader of the 13 heroes, a confirmed player in the light novel series, at least according to Evil Eye, was handed the guild weapon of the 8 Greed Kings. But quite tragically and interestingly, at least according to the Dragonlord, the leader of the 13 heroes died and refused resurrection because he killed a fellow player and presumably good friend throughout his journey. Let's think about that statement. Platinum Dragonlord seriously considered killing Azud Aindra in order to repossess the power suit and to give it to somebody who's more worthy and capable of using it to maximum effectiveness. Furthermore, considering he really disliked that Azud was heading out in order to save another town from being Death Knighted and Death Warriored, he probably also wants somebody who's much more submissive to have the suit. Basically a New World version of Mare. In fact, he might even had another candidate in mind, who surely would be willing to accept the suicidal mission of keeping Albedo busy. More on him later. Come to think about it, after Azud Aindra attacked the undead horde that was about to wipe out another city, the Dragonlord might actually have tried to get Azud Aindra killed during the meeting with Clementine's brother and the other Black Scripture members, who were far more powerful than Azud and any of Blue Rose's members. Simply by requesting Azud to drop and insult the name of Rufus, an important and very esteemed member of the slain Theocracy, in front of them, something the leader of Red Drop was more than happy to do. He in fact went so far as to invite escorts to the meeting just to provoke the Black Scripture further. Fun fact, these girls, much like Tia and Tina, could have been assassins who used their allure to strike vulnerable adventurers, like Azud, who in this moment had neither his power suit nor his shirt equipped. But Evil Eye, who as an undead is immune to critical attacks, put them under mind control and sent him away in the adjacent room. Maybe this action barely saved Azud's life. If they had indeed been allies of the Theocracy, then the two escorts might have slit his throat as soon as he mocked the being named Rufus. And he was not only insulting this person, he also mockingly asked if the members of the Black Scripture called the undead thing Milord, implying that the undead holds power or at least control over the scripture, if not the entire Theocracy. Anyway, as soon as this insult to Rufus was out, the entire atmosphere shifted. Violence and hate filled the air, and not a single member of the Black Scripture made an effort to veil their murderous desire. If things had been the slightest bit different, Azud might have died right then and there, leaving his armor for the taking, and the blame for Azud's death resting on the Black Scripture, and by extent the Theocracy. And the reaction of the zealots in the Black Scripture was more than to be expected. After all, the leader of Red Drop had probably insulted the first follower of Surshana, the Theocracy's very own god of death, which would be an unbelievable slight to any believer. Furthermore, the last thing the secretive Black Scripture, and by extent the Theocracy, wants to leak out, is that the humanocentric zealots were worshipping an actual undead the whole time, and that his first follower, another undead, is still a high-ranking member of the government. But considering that Sur-Non is a thing, the knowledge might have already leaked. So yes, I'm theorizing that Rufus is the first follower of Surshana, and that insulting the first follower, at least in Platinum's mind, might have been the equivalent of a death sentence. However, there's another possibility, namely that the two escort ladies were hired by Platinum's armor directly, with the order to kill Azud as soon as he insulted Rufus. After that, Platinum Dragonlord might have swooped in order to prevent any further killing, and to ensure that the suit would be retaken by him and not the Theocracy. And of course, during his heroic entrance, he would just have to kill the two escorts, in order to prevent any further violence. And with Blue Roses and his niece witnessing what had just happened, there is no way to link Platinum to the killing, and the Theocracy would be held accountable, thus creating more opposition to the state of the six great gods, who remember were recruiting high-ranking adventurers, while Ainz was invading the kingdom. The death of Red Drop's leader could also be used as a casus belli for the destruction of the Theocracy, who, remember, wants to use Zeshi, a descendant of a player, to invade the Elven Kingdom. And then there's the possibility that they were just indeed random escorts, and Platinum relied on the zeal of the scripture to dispose of Azud. In any case, Platinum contemplated, and had probably already tried to have Azud Aindra killed for disobeying him, or simply in order to recruit a more useful tool. Somebody who's naive, somebody who's just, somebody who collects heroic tales, like that of the 13 heroes as a hobby, somebody already dressed in platinum armor, somebody who would be willing to go on a suicide mission to distract Albedo, somebody who perhaps already went on a suicide mission, with a wild magic ring on his finger in the 6th light novel. All things considered, Climb would be a suitable candidate for this, were it not for the fact that he's even more talentless than Azud Aindra. But we don't know if Platinum knows about his weakness. Perhaps he had expected Climb to die in the battle against Albedo, and then have him replaced with Brain Anglaus, who for the most time of his life was on a quest for even more power, and who witnessed the death of his friend and rival, Gazev Stronov, by the hand of the Sorcerer King. But even if Platinum sincerely did gave the name of Rufus out to protect Azud, and let the Theocracy know that he has somebody powerful backing him, he is not only considering killing of Azud Aindra in order to retake the power armor, but given his line of thought, he might have also killed the player that led the 13 heroes, possibly in order to retake the guild weapon of the 8 Greed Kings, which after all is a much more powerful relic than a red suit of power armor. And even if this isn't the case and he has received no item in the light novel, the leader of the 13 heroes was already on his way of becoming stronger than Platinum Dragonlord's real body, putting him totally beyond any control. And if this is true, it would paint a much more sinister picture about the role he played during the war against the evil spirits, and possibly his theorized interference with the 8 Greed Kings. Because in the web novel he allied himself with the Theocracy in order to defeat these players. And while it was stated multiple times throughout the series that the kings fell victim to infighting after defeating the Dragonlords, conveniently enough the slain Theocracy was in possession of Downfall of Castle and Country, a mind-controlling world item. And they had a matching motive, because the damnable 8 Greed Kings killed Surshana, their god of death. And remember, if the Black Scripture reacted to the name of Rufus being insulted with murderous intent, imagine what a nation full of zealots would do if their god of death was killed. So perhaps, and keep in mind that all of this is just a theory, Platinum Dragonlord used his armor to lure out one of the kings, while the Theocracy ambushed him and put him under mind control, thus causing the infighting. And for Tsar Dorko's vision, it would have been sweet revenge as well, because during his battle against Pandora's actor, he stated that neither the deeds of his father, nor what the players did to his mother, were justified. His father was in all likelihood the Dragon Emperor, and it is heavily implied that he had something to do with the players' arrival. Link to my theory about this in the description. And therefore what players did to his mother might imply that the players killed his mother, thus perhaps starting the apocalyptic war with the Dragonlords. Alternatively, it happened somewhere during the war. And while again this is just another theory, if this is true, it would explain why Tsar stated to himself that his hands are already soaked with blood, and why he just couldn't allow the player of the 13 heroes to keep the guild weapon, or even live, because Evil Eye stated that the player who was at one point the weakest member of the 13 heroes became the strongest among them, implying he already surpassed the capabilities of Platinum Dragonlord's armor. And having a member of the same species that killed his mother, and much of his race, wield this much power, would be extremely dangerous for Platinum, and by extent to the New World. Killing off the leader of the 13 heroes would also explain why Tsar Dorko's knowledge about Yggdrasil was still somewhat limited, despite being on good terms with a player. Furthermore, while his armor couldn't beat Shaltir, and likely wouldn't be unable to beat Pandora's actor without a world item if he had fought Riku seriously instead of merely collecting information, Platinum was quite confident that he would be able to slay Ainz, Albedo, and even Shaltir if he fought with his real body. And therefore back in the days he would have still been strong enough to overpower the player that led the 13 heroes, especially because they were allies and fought against the apocalyptic threat of the evil spirits. So figuratively and literally stabbing him in the back would have been doable, especially because he had the element of surprise and his wild magic. If even Draudlicon Auriculus, with a much diluted dragon blood, would have been able to use wild magic powerful enough to annihilate the entire beastman attacking her kingdom, if she was fed 1,000,000 souls, then Platinum Dragonlord should be able to annihilate everything without a world item equipped. Lastly, it is stated on his character sheet that Platinum had killed players before, which might refer to the lead of the 13 heroes, if allied to the Theocracy, the 8 Greed Kings, or perhaps even Surshana, the god of death himself, since it was stated multiple times that his armor is very effective against the undead, and killing Surshana and blaming his death on the 8 Greed Kings, thus creating a coalition against them with the slain Theocracy to mind control one of the kings in order to see discord among them and start a civil war, would have allowed him to wipe out every single player that was still left in the New World. So yeah, those are my theories. And finally, the last point I wanna make is Platinum Dragonlord's reception, because the Overlord community seemingly hates him for being more on the line of chaotic good or at the very least neutral, than the lawful good peanut-brained undead-hating Nea-bullying Remedios, or a scalier version of Climb instead of treating him with disgust for not kneeling in front of the Sorcerer King himself, like a proper worshipper of justice would do. On a more serious note, let's face it, Einsulgaun is a pragmatic conqueror, while Platinum Dragonlord is a pragmatic world protector. Just as Ainz had no qualms to refuse Enri's parents' resurrection, just as he was contemplating of stealing Inferior's talent, of using every item in the world, just as he left the Swords of Darkness for dead, because that way they are more useful to him, and just how he killed allied adventurers, Tsar likely used and then disposed of the 13 heroes leader. Remember, Platinum was willing to kill Azud Ainra himself and retake his armor because the reckless behavior and the underwhelming power level of Azud meant that one of his tools of world defense wasn't used to maximum effectiveness. And after most of his entire race was already wiped out, he couldn't afford to waste even a quantum of power. But since we mainly see how Ainz is compassionate about his dear children, and how he had come to respect Prince Zanek, Clementine, and Nea, how he treated others with respect despite his exalted status, and how he just wants the Sorcerer Kingdom to be a paradise of peace and plenty, we came to dislike Platinum's pragmatic and hypocritical approach of world protecting. And this is where we stop. I know there are others and perhaps even more impressive secrets, but especially the big one deserves another video all on its own. And yes, the battle will also be analyzed to death. And before I end this video, I want to give you an overview about all of my theories. Platinum might have already tried to kill Azud by letting him provoke the Black Scripture, by mentioning and insulting Rufus in order to retake the power armor. With Climb and Brain Anglaus, he might have already had some, at least from his perspective, more suitable candidates in mind. And the connection of Rigrid, Blue Roses, Gazav Stronov and Climb is most certainly there. Given that the weak player that joined the 13 heroes became the strongest hero by the end of the journey, implying that Tsar's armor was weaker than him, and that the player was at least in the web novel granted the guild weapon of the 8 Greed Kings, and thus in possession of an extreme amount of power, Platinum Dragonlord might have killed him with his real body, in order to prevent him from gaining more power than the Dragonlord himself, and thus becoming uncontrollable, and at least for the Dragonlord, unkillable. With the death of much of his race, and the possible death of his mother at the hand of the players, Platinum Dragonlord has a matching motive, and given his pragmatic and scheming nature, he might have temporarily allied himself with the Theocracy in order to lure out one of the 8 Greed Kings, and then have the Theocracy mind control him in order to see discord and start the civil war that ended their reign. And he might also have killed Surshana, an undead player presumably weak against Platinum and his armor, and blame his death on the 8 Greed Kings in order to coax the Theocracy into action, thus eliminating every player in the new world in the process. But again, these are just my theories. What are yours? Let me know in the comments. And with that said, thank you very much for listening, and special thanks to Adam J, Al Capone, Andy, Angel of Death, Bad Guy Yee, Boyzilla, Chrissy, Diabetic Centaur, Dystopia, Elika Birchleaf, Phalis Catus, Gigafight, Ghost of Epicness, Hector Moreno, Hoss, Jason, Kleinator, Chromius, Lars, Lord Touch Me, Lord Ulbert Elaine Oddle, Lou Says Ollie, Majima, Matt C, Marcos, Mr. Shoes, Mindless Wrath, Minnow 13, Mirtis, Primus 11, Sasuga 1 Summer, Sebastian, Shadow Lightning Wolf, Surge, Sparkly Unicorn, Vash Hawkeye, and Zoggo, Bane of a Lot. Thanks guys. Anyway, have a nice day, over and out.